Hello friends, welcome back to Prosto Hub, and this is the third session of our current topic, articulators. So those who are new to this channel Prosto Hub, my name is Dr. Jolsna, and through this channel I discuss some of the important prosthodontic topics that may help you in your university exam preparations. So let's see the contents of articulators. We have completed the important classifications of articulators in our previous session, and in today's session we shall be discussing some of the most popular articulators that is used and also the parts of semi-adjustable articulators. So before getting into the topic, I request everyone to please do like and share my videos if you're finding these videos useful, and if you are new to this channel, please do subscribe and support me. If you have any queries, feedbacks, topic suggestions, you can comment below this video or you can mail me at this mail ID. So without any delay, let's get into the topic. We have discussed the Rihani et al. Classification of articulators based on its adjustability in our previous session, where the articulators are classified into three groups, that is the non-adjustable, semi-adjustable and fully adjustable. And you can expect a short note on the topic semi-adjustable versus fully adjustable articulators. And let's see the points that you can include in your answer. We know that fully adjustable articulator accepts three-dimensional dynamic registration as compared to semi-adjustable articulator that accept only in two dimension. And semi-adjustable articulators are simple to use and record when compared to fully adjustable, which are more complex and sophisticated. The condylar path is straight and linear in semi-adjustable, whereas customization of condylar path as well as intercondylar distance is also possible in fully adjustable. And the Condyle Guidance, it's programmed from protrusive and lateral records obtained from patient in semi-adjustable, whereas in fully adjustable, both Condyle Guidance and Incisal Guidance are recorded from the patient. In semi-adjustable, the condylar fossa is either closed or open, whereas in fully adjustable, they do not have a condylar guidance. Instead, they have receptacles in which the acrylic is placed and molded as per patient's mandibular movements. And semi-adjustable is usually used in CD as well as FMR cases, whereas fully adjustable, it's mainly used for complex full mouth rehabilitation cases. Semi-adjustable can accept pantographic tracings. Semi-adjustable cannot accept pantographic tracings, whereas fully adjustable can accept pantographic tracings. And semi-adjustable is less time consuming when compared to fully adjustable. So the mounting of the cast and adjustment is more time consuming in fully adjustable. So the fully adjustable articulators, the accuracy depends upon the skill of the operator in transferring the various three-dimensional records from the patient. So in fully adjustable, the capabilities of the operator also play a considerable role while using. So these are the main differences between semi-adjustable and fully adjustable articulators. Let us see some of the individual articulators that are most popularly used, namely the mean value articulator, the Vapix and the Hanau articulators. So first is the mean value articulator. So we are very familiar with this articulator as we have used it during your undergraduate course. So this mean value articulator is a non-adjustable articulator. And why is it called mean value? Because it is fabricator based on average values that is taken from the population. So it has got three fixed average values. One is the intercondylar distance, which is 100 to 110 degree, the condylar guidance, that is 33 degree, and incisal guidance, that is 9 to 12 degree. So all these three values are average values that is taken from the population and it's called as mean value articulator. And we also know that this articulator is a non-archon articulator. Why? Because the condylar element, it is attached to the upper member of the articulator. So this is the condylar element which is attached to the upper member. So you can see this is the condylar element in a mean value articulator, and the condylar guidance is attached onto the lower member of the articulator. So this is a non-archon articulator. Coming to the parts of a mean value articulator. So basically important parts are upper and lower member, where the upper member represents the maxilla and lower member represents the mandible, the condylar guidance, the incisal guide table, and the incisal pin. So we know that the upper member is a triangular frame with the base of the triangle placed posteriorly. So this is a triangular frame, and the apex of this triangle consists of a provision in order to accommodate the vertical rod or the incisal pin, and also there is a thumb screw to lock it into position. And posteriorly you can see there is condylar elements projecting out from either side, and this articulate with the condylar guidance of the lower member. Now the maxillary cast is attached to the upper member during articulation. Next is the lower member. So lower member is an L-shaped frame that consists of a vertical arm as well as a horizontal arm. The apex of the horizontal arm, that is this lower member horizontal arm, consists of incisal guide table, and the incisal pin is resting on this guide table. Whereas the vertical arm has got the condylar guidance slot at its upper portion. And the incisal and condylar guidance are the parts of lower member. And there is also a fixed metal bar. You can see here a fixed metal bar is seen attached to the vertical arm of the lower member, and this is for coinciding the line of or the plane of occlusion during articulation. So during articulation the plane of occlusion should coincide with this horizontal bar. Condylar guidance. So as per definition, it is the mandibular guidance generated by the condyle and articular disc traversing the contour of anterior slope of glenoid fossa. So as the definition tells, it guides the movement of the condyle. And in the mean value articulator, the condylar guidance is represented by a slot that is located in the upper part of the lower member. So we have said that this condylar slot, this is the representation of the condylar guidance, and this slot is inclined at an angle that is the average value taken from the population, that is 33° on both the sides. Now the condylar element of the upper member passes through this track. So you can see here the condylar element, it passes through this track, the condylar element of the upper member. And also there is a spring mounted within this track in order to stabilize the condylar element and to hold them in their posterior most position when no movements are made. So there is a spring that is present within this slot. Okay, this is to stabilize the condylar element in centric relation position, and this condylar guidance does not accept phaseboard transfer in mean value articulator. Coming to the incisal guide table and incisal pin. So the incisal guide table or the anterior guide table is defined as that component of an articulator on which the anterior guide pin rests in order to maintain the occlusal vertical dimension and also influence the articulator movement. So you can see that this is the incisal guide table. You can see the upper surface of the incisal guide table is concave, and the incisal pin should rest on this incisal guide table, that is at the center of the incisal guide table. And the depth of this concavity is actually having a slope that is equal to the average incisal guide angle taken from the population, that is around 15°. And this incisal guide angle is fixed and non-customizable in mean value articulator. Next is the incisal pin or the anterior guide pin. This is defined as that component of an articulator, generally a rigid rod attached to one member. So the rod is attached to one member and it contacts the anterior guide table on the opposing member. So this is the anterior guide pin or the incisal pin. The anterior guide pin along with table and the condylar elements direct the movement of the articulator's separate members. Now at the midpoint of this vertical rod, a hole is provided in order to fit the incisal guide pin. So this is the hole. Here you can see the incisal guide pin is attached, and the tip of the incisal guide pin is the anterior reference point in this articulator. The incisal edge of the maxillary incisors at the midline of the occlusal rim should touch this tip of the incisal pin during articulation. And you can see the upper flat surface of the vertical rod should always be in flush with the superior surface of the upper member. So this is about the incisal pin and the anterior reference point, that is the incisal guide pin. So these are the basic parts of a mean value articulator. Next, let us see about the Vapix Articulator. So the first Vapix Articulator along with the quick mount face bow was introduced by Charles Stott in the year 1964. So this was a semi-adjustable archon articulator, and these permitted the user to quickly and easily mount the cast. The original model was designated as 8500, and in this model the intercondylar distance was adjustable to three positions, that is small, medium and large. So as you can see in this picture, there were three adjustments for intercondylar distance: small for 96 millimeter, medium 110 millimeter and large was for 124 millimeter. So this adjustment was performed by utilization of spacers on the condylar guidance, that is on the horizontal axis of the instrument. So there was no spacer for small, one spacer for medium and two spacer for the large intercondylar distance. So this was how the intercondylar distance was adjusted in Vapix Articulator. Now, here the upper and the lower frames are mechanically attached by means of a spring latch assembly, and it has an adjustable condylar inclination of 0 to 70 degree and adjustable progressive side shift of 0 to 40 degree. And several models of Vapix articulators are available that vary slightly in dimensions and their capabilities. So let us see some of these models. Next was the model 9000, which was similar to 8500 except that the lower frame is half-inch taller in order to provide more space for mounting the mandibular cusp. And then came the model 8800, which provided an additional half-inch space to mount the maxillary cusp. So this is more suitable in situations with extremely steep plane of occlusion or when there is an osseous defect in the maxilla. Then came the model 9800, which combines the upper frame of model 8800 with lower frame of model 9000 in order to provide the greatest distance between the upper and the lower frame. That is, upper as well as lower frame there is a half-inch extra space. Then the Vapix introduced the model 8300, where there was a 3 by 4 inch curved superior walls in the condylar guides and also the immediate side shift adjustment from the range of 0 to 4 millimeter. And then the modified version of 8300, that was named as model 8340, which allowed interchangeability of the cast between articulators. So these articulator had a special mounting plate table precisely attached to the lower frame using a special fixture that was called as the AccuMount system. So after the AccuMount system is fixed, the relationship between the upper and the lower frame is checked individually, and this ensures that the cast can be changed between any 8340 articulator without loss of accuracy. The latest version of Vapix Articulator was designed as model DB2000, DB2200 and 2240 models. So here in all the three, the posterior viewing and access space has been increased, and also the interframe distance was increased up to 114 millimeter to provide more space for bulky cast. And also a quick action centering latch system was part of the new design. So this system precisely centers the upper and the lower frames to each other. And also there was bilateral heavy elastics connecting the condylar assemblies to the vertical frames of the lower member. So this bilateral heavy elastics prevented the separation of upper and lower frames during excursive movement. It also maintained the condylar element against the medial wall of the condylar assembly during a lateral movement. Also tends to return the condylar element back to the CR position after releasing the lateral movement pressure. So this was about bilateral heavy elastics. So all these were the features of the new or the latest version of Vapix articulators. We are going to discuss the Hanau articulators. So the mean value articulator and the Vapix articulator are not that important from your exam point of view, but Hanau articulator, especially the Hanau wide view articulator, which we are using it throughout our course, are extremely important. You have to be thorough with the parts of this articulator and its uses. So first let's see the evolution of Hanau articulator and then we will discuss the parts of the semi-adjustable articulator. So it was Rudolf Hanau who received a patent for his first articulator, that was the Model A, and then the Model B, Model C, and which preceded the final Model H in the year 1923. And the Model H was designed for complete dentures, and here the condylar elements were part of the upper member and fixed at 110 millimeter, and the condylar elements functioned in a slot type guidance mechanism that was adjustable from -40 to +80 degree, and the horizontal condylar inclination was set by means of protrusive positional record, and the side shift adjustment ranged from 0 to 20 degree and was progressive in nature. And then later on, Hanau model M kinescope was introduced with two condyla posed on both sides, and this provided exact measurement of the mandibular movements. For years, he introduced model 110, which had got individual condylar guidance adjustment in both the sagittal and horizontal planes, and the lateral condylar angle calculated by the formula L is equal to h by 8 plus 12. And later on, he modified this model 110 with the introduction of incisal guide table. Hanau Model H2 series, which consisted of Model H2O, that is with an attached orbital indicator, H2PR, which had got adjustments to protrude or retrude the condylar balls up to 3 mm, H2X, that is with extendable condylar shaft, H2XPR, the combined features of the above model, and Model 96H2, where the Bennett angle was adjustable from 0 to 30 degree, and condylar guidance, horizontal condylar guidance adjustable from 0 to 75 degree. The Hanau Model 130 University series were introduced, which consisted of four models, that is the Hanau Model 130, 21, 22, 28, and 30. So these articulators varied in their intercondylar width adjustment as well as condylar inclination adjustments. Came the model 158, which was similar to 96H2 except that it is an Archon type instrument, special phase bow used, horizontal condylar adjustment from 0 to 60 degree and side shift adjustment from 0 to 30 degree. Then the model 166 radial shift was introduced, which is again an Archon type with fixed intercondylar distance of 100 millimeter, and here the condylar guidance was designed to incorporate a curved immediate shift or the radial shift with an adjustable progressive Bennett angle, and the horizontal condylar guidance adjustment was from 0 to 60 degree. Then the Hanau meet average type articulator was introduced, which was based on fixed average values incorporated into the design. So here the condylar element was at 110 millimeter distance with 30 degree horizontal inclination and a built-in average Bennett angle of 15 degree and 10 degree inclination on the incisal guide table. And here the upper member can be detached easily by opening the two locks, and it can also receive various face bows. The casts are mounted using quick release pins instead of mounting plates, and this helps for speeding the wax ups. And also there is excellent lingual visibility in Hanau made average type articulators. The Hanau wide view models 183 and 184, both of which are Archon in nature and having similar features. So wide view 1 has got a closed condylar track where you cannot remove the upper member, whereas in wide view 2 there is an open condylar track, and in wide view 2 you can separate the upper and the lower frames. So the 183 wide view model which we are using, the parts will be discussed in detail in the upcoming slides. And here the horizontal condylar path angle is adjusted from -20 to 60 degree and the Bennett angle from 0 to 30 degree. And here there is posterior wide portion which enables good lingual accessibility, and hence it is named as wide view models. The modular articulator system with a series of interchangeable guidance assemblies which permits a choice in the degree and type of condylar guidances necessary to achieve optimum results. So the basic frames of this articulator are produced in two forms. One is with a fixed intercondylar width at 110 millimeter, and another one is an adjustable version with 100, 110, 125 and 140 millimeter of intercondylar width. And then there is adjustable Bennett side shift, a radial shift of 3 mm, adjustable horizontal inclination of 0 to 90 degree, and also latches. And these latches lock the upper and lower frames in terminal hinge position. They can be released to permit excursive translations without disengagement, and they can be opened up in order to allow for rapid separation of the frames. Let us discuss about the parts of semi-adjustable articulators. So here we are going to discuss about the Hanau Wide View 183 articulator, and we know that they are classified as semi-adjustable and they are of Archon principle. That is, the condylar guidance are associated with the upper member of the articulator that corresponds to the glenoid fossa of the patient, and the condyle or the condylar element is a part of the lower member and functions as the condyle of the patient's mandible. Now let us see the parts. So the parts include upper and lower members, the mounting plates, condylar analog, condylar guides, incisal guides and incisal guide pin. So let us see one by one in detail. Is the upper member which is T-shaped when placed horizontally. So you can see here this is a T-shaped upper member. Anteriorly there is a provision to accept the incisal pin. Posteriorly there are condylar guidances. In the middle there is a dowel in order to hold the mounting ring. Okay, and in between these dowel and the incisal pin there is a thumb screw which is used to lock the orbital indicator in position. Now what is an orbital indicator? It is actually a curved metal shaft. Okay, so this is the orbital indicator. It is a curved metal shaft and it represents the infraorbital notch, and it is the anterior reference landmark of the Frankfurt horizontal plane. And you can see here the pointer of the face bow. The orbital pointer of the face bow should contact the orbital indicator during articulation. And when used with an orbital pointer on a face bow, it actually provides an anatomical vertical orientation for the upper arch and also avoids the use of any average reference line on the incisal pin. So the orbital indicator represents the infraorbital notch and also provides vertical orientation for the upper arch, eliminating the need of any average reference line on the incisal pin. It's the lower member of the Hanau. So lower member is L-shaped with a horizontal as well as a vertical arm. So the horizontal arm at the anterior end is the incisal guide table. In the middle there is a dowel for attaching the mounting ring, and you can see that the vertical arm is sloping outwards and giving a good lingual view, and hence it is called as Hanau wide view articulator. And at the upper end you can see two pins. One is a small metal pin that is seen projecting on the outer surface of the vertical arm, which is called as the auditory pin. Now, the earpiece of the face bow, this fit into these roll pins during articulation. So this is the earpiece of the face bow that fits into this roll pins or auditory pin during articulation, and this is the posterior reference point of the articulator. So this is about the roll pin or the auditory pin, and anterior to it you can see the another metal rod which is capable of free rotation, and that is called as the condylar shaft. So this is the condylar shaft which is seen 12 to 13 millimeter anterior to the roll pin. This is actually a cylindrical piece of metal capable of free rotation. And then you can see the condylar element is attached to the free end of the condylar shaft. So this is the condylar element which is actually a metal ball, and that represents the condyle of the mandible. So this is seen attached to the free end of this condylar shaft. So this is the condylar shaft and this one is the auditory pin. Now let us see the condylar guidances in detail. So we know that by definition, condylar guidance is the mandibular guidance generated by the condyle and articular disc traversing the condor of the glenoid fossa. So they are actually the posterior control centers of the articulator, and they represent the slopes of articular eminence in the skull, which guides the movement of the condyle. So here the condylar element, which we already discussed in our previous slide, which is a metal ball that moves along the inclines of the condylar guidance, and both of them together determines the protrusive and lateral movements of the articulator. Now, this condylar guidance can be adjustable in two axes. One is the horizontal transverse axis. So this is horizontal transverse axis. It can be adjusted on the vertical axis also. So on the horizontal transverse axis, it can be adjusted from a 0 to a plus 60 degree or to a minus 20 degree. And this inclination is termed as a protrusive inclination, and it simulates the patient's superior wall of the fossa. So the protrusive calibration you can see over here, that is from a 0 to plus 60 and to minus 20 degree. Now the condylar track can be adjusted on a vertical axis from a 0 to 30 degree, which is termed as a progressive Bennett angle and corresponds to the medial wall of the patient's fossa. So you can see here, this is the Bennett calibration, which is on a vertical axis. Now, the condylar guidances can be of three types. It can be fixed, where it cannot be adjusted and seen in mean value articulator. It can be adjustable, where it can be increased or decreased, can be straight or curved, and that can also be custom made, that is seen in fully adjustable articulator, where the acrylic is custom molded using records of mandibular movement. Now, the condylar guidance is programmed from records obtained from the patient. So for this we use a protrusive record. So once we get a protrusive positional record, the horizontal angle is set on the condylar guidance by rotating it. So we set the angle, that is a horizontal condylar angle we set, and from this angle the lateral angle is calculated with the formula L is equal to h by 8 plus 12. The condylar guidance track can be open or closed. So in Hanau wide view, you can see that the condylar element rotates in an enclosed housing, that is a closed condylar track, and this prevents accidental disengagement of the upper member. Whereas in some other articulator, you can see that the condylar guidance track is open. So the circle is not complete and it has got a open end at one side, giving it a U shape. So this facilitates easy removal and reattachment of the upper member of the articulator. Now at the posterior end there is another component which is called as the centric stop. So the centric stop limits the movement of the condylar element. So when the condylar element rests against the centric stop, it is at the centric position. So while articulation, the condylar element should rest against this centric stop. Now again there is another component which is called as a centric lock. So the centric lock depresses a centric pin, causing it to arrest the condylar element at the centric position. So when we want the condylar element in the centric position to be locked, we engage the centric lock and this depresses the centric pin and this arrests the movement of the condyle. So at this position, when locked, the upper member is restricted only to an opening and closing movement. And releasing the centric lock, two full turns will disengage the centric pin and return the element's freedom of movement in the condylar track. Anterior control area, which is equally important as that of the posterior control area, that is the incisal guidance. So in existing occlusion, this is adjusted in consideration of the vertical and horizontal overlap of the anterior teeth, and in case of edentulous mouth, vertical and horizontal overlap is determined by aesthetic and phonetic measurement. So as per definition, incisal guidance is the influence of the contacting surfaces of the mandibular and the maxillary teeth on mandibular movements. And here you can see in Hanau, it has got an adjustable incisal guide, and the incisal guide along with incisal pin and condylar guidance present a stable three-dimensional programmed guide pattern for the mounted cast. And it has got a central guiding table which is 5.56 millimeter wide. So this is a central guiding table and it has got two components, that is the anterior posterior component and the lateral component. The anterior-posterior component represents the lingual slope of upper anterior teeth, and lateral component represent lingual slopes of maxillary canine or the lingual slopes of the buccal cusp of maxillary posterior teeth. So you can see here, anterior posteriorly this can be adjusted, and also the lateral wings can be adjusted. So anterior posteriorly it is adjusted from 0 to 60 degree. So, and it is secured by a small lock nut. So this is the lock nut where anterior posterior adjustment can be made, and laterally this can be adjusted from 0 to 45 degree by an elevating thumb screw. So this is the elevating thumb screw, and lateral wings can be adjusted from 0 to 45 degree. Now there are three types of incisal guidance similar to that of condylar guidance. So there is fixed, adjustable and also customized incisal guidance. So here in this picture you can very well appreciate the incisal guidance parts. So we have said this is the incisal guide table, 5.56 millimeter wide. It has got two components, anterior posterior and the lateral component. Anterior posteriorly this can be adjusted from 0 to 60 degree and secured into position by means of a small lock nut here, and the lateral wings can be adjusted from 0 to 45. You can see the calibrations here, 0 to 45 degree by means of an elevating thumb screw and lock by a thumb nut here. So these are the two components, and we know that the incisal guide pin should rest on the center of the incisal guide table during articulation. And now how we are going to set the incisal guidance. We have already discussed this in detail in our balanced occlusion session. So during the try-in stage, first the patient is asked to move his mandible forward till the incisor come to an edge-to-edge relationship, and the position of anterior teeth is altered in order to achieve a balanced occlusion. So when we get this, then the occlusal rim are transferred to the articulator and same movement is repeated. So when the teeth are in edge-to-edge relationship, the incisal pin will not touch the incisal guide table. It will be little bit elevated. So at this time, the incisal table should be rotated anterior posteriorly till it contacts the incisal pin. So this is how we record the protrusive incisal guidance. Now the patient is asked to move his mandible to the right, that is to reach an edge-to-edge canine relationship till there is disocclusion elsewhere, and then this position is noted, and then again the occlusal rim are transferred to the articulator, same movement is carried out, and during lateral disocclusion incisal pin will raise from the table, and then the lateral wing is adjusted. Okay, it is lifted up until it touches the incisal pin. So this procedure is again repeated for the contralateral side. So this is the procedure for setting the incisal guidance. The component, that is the anterior slot that is present in the lower member. So you can see here the anterior slot. So first you have to loosen the platform lock screw. So this is the platform lock screw. When you lose it, you can slide the platform anterior posteriorly to align the chisel end of the incisal pin with the 0 indicating line on the lateral wing. So for this, the anterior slot is present where you can slide the whole platform anterior posteriorly. Coming to the incisal guide pin or the dual end incisal pin. So as the name suggests, it has got two ends. One is the chisel edge and the other one is the spherical tip. So usually we use the chisel edge, and spherical tip is used for fabricating customized acrylic anterior guide table. That is especially used in fully adjustable articulators. Now the incisal guide pin act as the forward control of the articulator. So it maintains a vertical stop and also provides a stylus contact for the excursive movements of the articulator. Now you can see here on the incisal pin there is a midline groove. There is a widened midline groove that is present at 1 inch from the spherical tip, and there are 5 additional lines calibrated in millimeters on either side of this midline groove. So there is a midline groove and 5 lines on either side of the midline groove, and this is to record or alter the vertical dimension position. Now when placed, so in this picture you can appreciate, when placed the widened midline of these metric grooves should be aligned with the top edge of the upper member, and this position is secured by using a thumb screw which is tightened against the flat edge of the flat side of the incisal pin. so that some screw can be tightened against the flattened side on this pin. So this adjustment places the chisel end at 90 degree to the incisal guide table. So when you lock this position, the chisel edge will be at 90 degree to the incisal guide table, and also it provides parallelism of the upper and the lower member of the articulator. Appreciate this is the chisel edge, this is the spherical tip, this is the widened midline groove, and uh, each of the lines that is calibrated in millimeters on either side. This is a flattened side of the incisal guide pin, and also you can see two annular grooves that is present at 37 millimeter and 54 millimeter below the Frankfurt horizontal plane. So these markings, these spaced out markings, act as the anterior reference point in the absence of a phasebore transfer. Now, this 37 mm line is actually based on Bonville's theory and results in generally horizontal appearing plane of occlusion, whereas the 54 mm line, it forms an average landmark for the alignment of the incisal edge of the upper centrals when making a phasebore transfer. Now, while the incisal guide pin is placed, you can see it extends beyond the tip of the upper member. So this is to provide a third point of stability when inverting the articulator for mandibular cast mounting. So this acts as a stability point. So this is about the incisal guide pin. We are going to discuss the programming of semi-adjustable articulator, which we will be continuing in our next session. Thanks to each and every one of you for watching my video. Please do like and share my videos if you are finding these videos useful. And if you are new to this channel Prosto Hub, please do subscribe and support me. And if you have any queries, topic suggestions or feedbacks, do comment below this video, or you can mail me at this mail ID. So it's bye from Prosto Hub until our next session.